All right, today's guest, three-time Australian age group champion and recently third in aquathlon and fifth in the long course triathlon at the Townsville World Championships. We've got Jack Smith. How
Hey
you
mate,
going,
how
mate?
you going? Yeah, good. Thanks for bringing me in.
Yeah, no worries. I'm bloody, like we were just saying, Nutty, bloody, he was saying, got to get you on, and I did, definitely had you on my mind, and we're here.
Yeah,
So,
sweet. Thanks, man.
no, it's good. And I guess kick it off. How the triathlon journey start for you?
Yeah. So for me, I don't know. It was sort of come about in 2017. It was about this week actually to the day. It was the Agnes Triathlon was coming up. It's in late September, start of October every year, and I was doing a bit of running and that sort of stuff beforehand, like longer distance running through late high school, and then sort of dropped off for a bit when I started working through my apprenticeship, and then sort of looking to get back into a bit of fitness. So I t- had to go out doing a half marathon, just the run by itself, and then I did a couple of them, and then I thought, well, I'll try and challenge myself and do a full marathon. So I did one of them in September 2016, and then after that, from there, I was like, well, I want to see if I can beat my time on that, and did another one in July of 2017 at the Gold Coast, and so I did those two marathons, and I thought, well, I was looking for a bit more of a different challenge, and there was a little triathlon club in Gladstone here that was sort of starting to pick up a bit, and there was a few people that I was running with that were involved in it. So I thought, well, I've never done anything like that before, so I'll give that a go. But I knew that it was going to be pretty hard. Like for me anyway, I had never been a strong swimmer through school or as a kid or anything. I couldn't even really swim, and I thought, well, that's going to be a good challenge. So I just went out, bought a set of goggles, and went down to the pool by myself one day and just sort of thought, oh, I'll just swim a couple hundred meters. I knew that Agnes triathlon was going to be 750-meter swim. Um, so I thought I've got to make sure I can at least swim that in the pool because I've got to be able to do it out in the ocean. It's a bit more daunting out there. So I started from there and went down to the pool, went to do a couple of laps. I thought I'll just do a few hundred meters straight and just see how it go. And I literally got three-quarters of the way down to one lap of the pool, and I had to stand up. I thought when I first started, I thought this is easy, this will be right. And then I got probably not even to the end of the pool, and I had to stand up and stop and just like I was just staring at the other end. I thought, oh, what am I getting myself into here? I thought this is probably not my type of challenge, but no, I just sort of, walked the rest of that lap and then just sort of started doing a few 50s back and forth, just really slow. I had no idea on what sort of form I was in, and it was obviously terrible at the time, but um, yeah, just kept going, kept turning up week after week, just did a few swims here and there. And then, I was able to swim. I think I did 800 meters straight before the Agnes try. So I knew I was going to be able to do it. And then it was, start of October 2017. I went down to Agnes and did that triathlon there, and I was pretty stressed. I was worried about just getting through the swim. I knew I could get through the bike and the run, obviously, but we got through it. No worries. Swam. It was slow. I was well at the back of the field, like one of the last ones out of the water, but. I wasn't there to win the race. I was just there to prove to myself that I could, set a challenge and go and do it. So, I had a heap of fun. It was good. Heap of local people from Gladstone, people from around CQ that I knew. So, it was good to get out there and do that with all of them. And I sort of got a bit of a buzz from it, and got through the bike and the run, no worries. And I thought, well, I could get through that. I'll try another one some stage, and never really got too invested in it from there. But then there was the local Tannum Sands one in December, and I thought, well, I'll give that a go, and I was much the same as Agnes. I didn't really have a clue what I was doing. I hadn't done much training or anything. I didn't really know what sort of training you had to do, and I did that one. That was pretty slow too, but it was good. Got through it, and then from there it just grew. And I thought, well, if I can do those two sprint distance ones, where the 750-meter swim, 20k bike, and the 5k run, I thought, well, I'll have a go at an Olympic distance, which is double that. They call that the standard distance. So the next March, I went down to Mooloolaba and did that Olympic distance there. And by then, I sort of got a coach, the local guy in town here, Ryan. He gave me a bit of a hand, bit of a program to train for that one. And we got through that. It was that's a bit more daunting doing the 1.5k swim, especially down at Mooloolaba. It was pretty rough that day, I remember, and I was a bit nervous about that one, but we got through it. I was well back in the field for my age group, but I wasn't there to race it. I was just there to prove to myself again that I could do it. I think I was 24th or 25th in my age group there out of probably 40 odd people. And yeah, did another couple more Olympic distance races after that throughout the next year or so, and did a couple more sprint distance races, and then just from there just kept going and growing the distances each time, and built up to the long course triathlon, and did a couple of half Ironmans, and that brought me through to about 2019, 2020, and then I thought, well, if I can do that, I wouldn't mind trying to do a full Ironman. So that's the 3.8K swim, 180K bike, and 42K run. And so we trained up. I did probably 8-9 months of training purely just for that race. That was in 2022 in Cairns, and did that. Got through it. It was a tough day. It was a long day. Had a few cramps and that on the run, but we got through it, and that was the goal, just to get through it. It wasn't about racing or going for a time or anything. And it was a big bucket list item for me, getting through the full Ironman. I mean, sort of once you get into triathlon, you get pretty invested in it. A lot of people try and aim to finish a full Ironman, so it was good. And then while I was at that long Ironman distance training, I thought, well, while I'm in this sort of level of fitness, I may as well do another one. So I did another one in December that year, and in Busselton, WA, and improved my time a fair bit on that one. And yeah, it was good. It was a great experience. And from there we just the year after that, it was actually the qualifying year for the World Championships that were on this year. So that was last year, 2023, and the whole year was focused around qualifying for the Australian team for the 2024 Long Course Triathlon World Champs. And so there's a set of races that Triathlon Australia put out a schedule, and there's a heap of races all over the country, and they take your best 3 races of those of the whole qualifying series. So you can do as many as you want, but they'll only take your points from your best 3. And I did 4 and ended up getting 2 wins and a second, so that secured my spot in the Australian team from there. And that was the year I also won the Olympic distance Australian title for my age group. And also in that, so that was qualifying for Townsville 2024, which is where the World Champs were held. And they have a series of races at those World Championships. They've got, the long course triathlon, which I wanted to qualify for, but they've also got, it's a whole multi-sport festival. So they've got aquathlon, which is just swim, run. They've got duathlon, which is run, ride, run, and many other events too. So I thought while I'm up there, I might try and do the aquathlon, which is quite a small event, so I could handle that a couple of days before the long course triathlon. So we went up to Townsville in 2023 in August, and that was also the same weekend as the Australian Championships for the aquathlon as well. So went up there and did that race, and got the qualifying spot for there. They take top 5 at an Australian title race, and I got the win there, so that qualified me for that race as well. So from there, we just continued on and focused on the 2024 long course world champs. And I knew I had the aquathon as well in that same weekend, but the whole focus was on the triathlon. That's my thing I wanted to aim for. And we just kept building throughout the year. Me and my coach, Kefren Izzard, and he's put a lot of work into me probably the last 5 years now, which is really good. He's very switched on when it comes to the programming and training side of things, so I don't have to stress about that. I just get out and do the sessions each day, and I know that he's got the schedule right. So after many years, you sort of understand each other and how we like to work, and we've built a pretty good relationship there where I can just trust him to be able to put the program in, and if I follow it, I'll usually seem to get a result I'm hoping for anyway. So that brought us to August this year, 2024, at that multisport World Championships, where I ended up doing the aquathon on the Friday, which was a 1K, 2.5K run, 1K swim, 2.5K run. And I got 3rd in the world there, and then did the long course triathlon on the Sunday, which was a 3K swim, 120K bike, and 30K run. And I got 5th in the world there. So that brings us to about now.
Yeah. So leading up, you had the qualifiers in 2023, leading up to the World Champs 2024. How many races have you done in between that 12-month period? And what's the preparation leading up to a race look like for you?
Yeah, so it depends what distance you're training for. And I mean, you have races that you set out each year, which are classes, your A races. They're sort of the ones you focus on, whether it's a distance or a goal or a place that you want to focus on. And I mean, placing's not for everyone. And I mean, a lot of people just go out there and just try and finish a race, which is great too. And so I focused on the 12 months leading up to that race was focusing on qualifying, which were all around that long course triathlon, half Ironman sort of distance races. That's why I didn't do any full Ironmans last year. It was all aimed around that half Ironman distance, which was going to qualify me for the long course try. So I think I did 10 races last year, and yeah, probably, well, 4 of them were qualifying races, and the other 6 were just small races in the lead up to those races, or just in between races that was just sort of kept me motivated to keep training. You know, you don't want to train 15 to 20 hours a week and only race 4 times a year, or me anyway. Like, yeah, I like to race regularly. I mean, you do all the training for a reason, to race or to compete or just to finish a race distance. So yeah, that was the goal for me. And yeah, I did 10 races in 2023, with knowing that my main focus was those qualifying races. So that's what all the training was based around. And then those other smaller races that we do in between were just sort of, run through the motions in the race, and make sure do a bit of equipment testing, do testing some stuff you've been practicing and training, because just that race aspect of things, you just get a little bit more out of yourself and push yourself a bit more, having other people around you. And yeah, you can't really simulate that in training just as well as in a race.
Yeah, 100%. Going into, like, say you had a race, well, actually these World Championships you just competed at, what was that preparation like leading up to it? Like, obviously you're doing a lot more endurance, and then you're starting to taper, maybe 2 to 3 weeks out.
Yeah, that's right. So probably once I knew I qualified, which is November in 2023, I knew, rightio, we can focus on the race itself now. So we worked on what went wrong in the year, what we need to improve on, which for me was probably the bike leg of the race. Just getting a bit stronger on the bike. The triathlon world champs were a little bit longer than the sort of half Ironman distance. So it was the half Ironman distance, you ride 90 Ks, and the long course triathlon world champs were 120 Ks. So I knew I needed to be able to ride the 120, but also be able to race it if I wanted to compete. And I was confident enough in our ability that we've been doing it a few years now that I could race it. I wasn't there just to complete it, sort of thing. So we really worked on that. We did a lot of strength work, a lot of long rides each week. Always that's sort of a staple to the program, doing that long ride every week with a run off the bike, whether it's 4 to 5. I think I built up to about 5.5, 6 hours in training over the on that long ride each week for 8 or 9 months there, leading up to that race. And yeah, then as you get closer to the race, you sort of work on, once you got that foundation of endurance in your body, you pick up a bit of speed. You try and work on a bit of speed leading into the race when you get a bit closer, using that endurance that you've got in your body and in your legs. And then from there, probably 2 weeks before the race, we did a taper where you sort of doing the same amount of sessions that you would do all year round, but a little bit less distance, and still keep a fair bit of intensity there, but just not as much volume, shorter sessions. So that sort of builds you in. And then the week of the races, it's very light, a lot of really short sessions, a little bit of intensity just to keep the muscles moving and not feel flat on race day, but nothing that's going to cause any injury or stress to the body.
Yeah. And how's your diet look like?
Yeah, like
weekly basis?
I don't get too carried away with counting calories or anything like that. I just sort of try and eat pretty healthy all year round. Make sure I focus like just on having healthy meals. I don't want to get too, a lot of people do, go full extent, and it is a thing to look at. But for me, what's worked for me just over the last few years that I've been doing, it's just making sure I'm eating healthy and, making sure I'm feeling right throughout the day. A lot of making sure I'm hydrating pretty good throughout the day, especially if I've got a long session or a hard session that afternoon, or even the next day. You go for a long training session and you've done that for the week now, but you've got to make sure you rehydrate and refuel that afternoon, because the next day you've just got another session as well. Like when you're doing 11, 12, 13 sessions a week, nearly every morning, most afternoons you're training. So, just trying to squeeze the 3 sports into one, basically. You can't just do the one sport. So yeah, fueling's pretty big in the sport.
What do you say refuel? So obviously, like I said, hydration. Are you having like a lot of carbohydrates?
Yeah, a lot of carbs before a an event, especially, and also before a big training session. I make sure I get a good feed of carbohydrates in, like especially the night before a race or a night before a big training session. That'll help fuel and give you the energy you need through that training session. And then, yeah, make sure I get a lot of water and electrolytes in, especially the day before and leading up to a race, or and mostly all year round. But really focus on it when you got something important. That'll eliminate the possibility of cramps a lot of the time during the race or a long training session. And um, then throughout the training and racing, I feel on a product called Infinite Nutrition. I'm in their racing team that they've got. They've looked after me for a couple of years now, which is good, and they're all custom based nutrition, which is all liquid based. So it's all in a powdered form, and and you just like mix it in your water bottle and with water, and it customizes itself. So um, you can set how many carbs you need, or what suits you for that training session, whether it's 90 grams of carbs per hour or 120 grams of carbs per hour. You make up that mix through their custom blend system, and they design it and send it to you. So it's really handy for that. I mean, it's probably the only product on the market that customizes their own nutrition to suit each individual. Which, yeah, it's really handy.
Yep. And if you can share, like going to your race, the long course one, the world champs, like what was your strategy going into it?
Yeah, so for the race, usually my strengths are probably my swim and a little bit on the run too, but usually my weakness is probably out of the three comes down to the bike. I would usually probably lose a couple of minutes there to some bigger, stronger guys, but the plan was just to get out strong at the start of the swim. I knew it was going to be hot up in Townsville. It's very humid up there. So I just needed to make sure that I was aware of that and not get too carried away. Whether I know it's in winter up there, but it's still very humid. So I knew if I raced as hard as I would any other race, it could cook me for later in the run sort of thing. So we set out to just go out hard on the swim and get into a good rhythm early, but not overdo it. We wore wetsuits up there, so that obviously creates a bit more heat inside the body. So yeah, I took it steady, but I also got into a good rhythm that it was sort of had clear water. I was probably just off the back of the front group. There was a couple of guys that took off really hard, and I was just off the back of them. I think I come out of the water fourth or fifth, and then got through transition not too bad and got onto the bike, and I just took it steady at the start of the bike. I was racing, but I was just looking at my heart rate and making sure I wasn't getting too carried away too early. I knew I had 3 hours to do on the bike after that 40 odd minute swim. And so I just, yeah, got into a good rhythm early and rode my own race really. I didn't get too carried away with where other people were in the race. And yeah, I think I was fourth at that point. I'm working my way into third through the bike course, I was happy about. I didn't lose any places, which usually I might lose a few on the bike, and finished the bike in third, and then got onto the run. And the run was just about making sure I wasn't going to cook myself too early. And everyone was getting heated, like getting exhausted by the heat towards the end of the run. I was looking around. I thought, well, I'm glad it's not just me, but it was very hot. I did struggle towards the end of the run, trying to keep the body cooled. But yeah, we were 6 hours in at that point, and I was just glad to get to the finish line. But I didn't lose too many places on the run, which I was happy with. I ended up finishing in fifth, which probably 12 to 18 months earlier when we first set out on doing the World Championships, the goal was top five. So yeah, to come in fifth, I was stoked.
Yep. And bloody, I can only imagine what the cars would be like.
Oh
After that
yeah,
bike.
I was pretty cooked. I remember I was cramping a bit towards the end of the run, and you go through aid stations where they have water and electrolyte and Coke and nutrition and that at every aid station. But by the end of the run, you don't really feel like much. You sort of just grabbing cups of water and throwing it over your head just to try and cool the core body temperature down a bit. But yeah, as soon as I finished, I was cramping up a fair bit. But yeah, at that point, I was just glad to get it done.
Yep. And I want to come back to you were saying like you go for your 6 hour rides to put that into like a bit of a distance point of view, like how far are you riding and then how far are you running off that ride?
Yeah, so we do that long brick session. Like we call it a brick session, where you do a ride and finish and get straight into a run straight after the ride. It sort of simulates what you're doing in a triathlon. Um, so you're used to that feeling of running after a ride, because we do that in every race, obviously. So yeah, if I'm covering 4 to 6 hours, I'm doing anywhere from 120 to 180 k's. Um, in training, I mean, I'm not averaging the same speeds as I would in a race, but it's just about getting that time on the legs, especially that longer ride too. It's just about being out on the legs and feeling what the body will feel after 4 or 5 hours in a race. So, and then when we finish the ride, in that long ride each week in training, I'll throw the running shoes straight on. Usually it's anywhere I was doing 10 to 15k runs, not usually we'll go out and probably do a few Ks hard straight away off the bike, just simulate like in a triathlon, and then settle into more of a rhythm after that. I mean, your training sessions, you're not fully trying to cook yourself, because we got a big session the next day, usually like a longer run or something, but it's just simulating that time on the legs and getting exposure to being fatigued and running while fatigued, and practicing that transition and making sure I'm fueling between the ride to be able to run, and just that whole system like that.
Yep. Obviously, Gladdy's not the biggest of towns in size, so where the hell you bloody going 180 k's in distance?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time I'm doing it through the week. I don't get shift work in town here. I don't, I'll get a couple of weekends off a month where I can do them on the weekends when there's other people around. But a lot of the time it's me by myself through the week, on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or something like that. Um, so when I'm by myself, I used to try and go out of town a bit, but I tend to just stay in town now. It's just easier for me. If something does go wrong and I'm by myself and everyone's at work, or it's just easier knowing that I'm in town, and if something does happen and I need to get a lift or something, I'm in town with service. So yeah, I do a fair bit of just looping around Gladstone here, back and forth a fair bit. It is mentally hard sometimes getting out and just knowing that you've got to do 4 or 5 loops of town, but at the same time, it's good making it mentally hard for yourself, because I mean, in a race day, it can get pretty mental at some points. So you've got to train the brain just as much as training the body.
Yeah, you bloody know every street in Gladdy by now,
Yeah,
off the top
yeah,
of your head.
yeah. I've toured around a fair bit.
And I guess, like you just mentioned there, you're doing shift work. So on top of training, shift work, and you got your partner, how are you going with time management?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing in triathlon. You're trying to compete and race 3 sports, I suppose, compared to just the one. So you've got to balance life, balance training. You're trying to train for 3 sports, jam it all in. But yeah, time management's massive. I mean, my coach, he sets out the program each week for me, which makes it easy. So on a weekend or a Sunday, I can see what I've got for the following week, and yeah, from there, if I need to make little adjustments, now that we know each other really well and we've got a good relationship, me and my coach Kefren, we can adjust stuff if needed, if something comes up or anything like that. But we usually get most of it done. I put my shift roster into the program, and he works around that. We know what works for us on what days, and where we can fit our long stuff in and our shorter stuff. And the shorter stuff's usually on the days that I'm doing day shift, whether it's hour and a half or 2-hour sessions, and then the 4, 5, 6 hour days are on my days off, which it's not too bad working shift work. I get those days off through the week, and everyone else is at work. My wife Alex, she's at work, so I can get out and get it done, and yeah, I'm not disturbing too much. I'm sort of home anyway, so yeah, it's handy like that.
Yeah, you're almost doing 2 full-time jobs, really.
Yeah, basically, it is sort of like that. I mean, we train, only 15 to 20 hours, but it's not. I mean, compared to working full time, where I'm working 60 odd hours a week, but and when you think about it, 15 hours isn't a full time job, but it's the recovery that you've got to fit in between. You finish a 5 hour training day, or say you do a 4 hour ride, a 40-minute run off the bike. There's 4 hours, 45 hours done, and it's in the morning, but you've got to fuel and recover. You can't just go straight. You're pretty tired, and you got to do a swim that day too, usually, whether it's in the afternoon. So you're trying to refuel, rehydrate, recover, and fit all that in as well. So you're probably the amount of training you're doing, you're probably doubling it plus a bit extra with recovery as well throughout the week. So, yeah, it's not just about finishing the training session you're done for the day. Yeah, it's just really important to get that recovery in, or else you get injured, or yeah, the swelling in your legs won't come down, or or in the arms from the swimming, and yeah, making sure you can continue on the next day.
Yep. And I guess with triathlon, it's not a cheap sport. It takes a bit of coin. So with now you're starting to get like these, places that are standing out a lot more. How you going about sponsorship? Are you?
Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, like you mentioned, triathlon's bloody expensive. Just to compete in it, like say for example, a half Ironman. For me to travel down to, for example, Sunshine Coast, it's probably $100 each way on fuel. You've got a few $100s worth of accommodation for 2 to 3 days you're there. A registration for a half Ironman's $500. Then you've got all the nutrition and training leading up to that event, your equipment, your gear that you go through on the bike. Um, yeah, just to set out and go into a half Ironman, if you've already got a bike, you're probably looking at 5 odd grand, up to 10 grand, just in the lead up to that race. So it does add up a fair bit, and obviously it's a passion of mine. So, and it's not like I'm not just doing it as a chore; it's something I love doing. So, you know, it's good, but it is really important to try and chase some sponsors, I suppose, once you start competing a bit more, because they all add up. And I'm very fortunate enough that I've picked up a couple of sponsors here in town in Gladstone that support me. It's great. I've got the Guinea Group, so Anton Guinea, he's not just a sponsor of mine, he's also one of my training partners. He does a lot of training with me, whether it's swimming, riding. We do a little bit of running together. We do a fair bit of riding actually together, and a fair bit of swimming. And he's come on board in the last couple of years, and we do a lot. We travel to a lot of events together, and he's supported me massively over the last few years. And it's really important that it's really good that I've got him backing me, because having people like that allows me to continue to do more events, which is great. And then also having him as a training partner as well. Like, we'll go out at 3 o'clock in the morning before work, and he turns up with me every time, because he does a bit of triathlon too, so he trains with me. But it's having him there motivating me to get through those sessions is great. I mean, it's pretty hard to go out by yourself at that time of the day and get a ride done or whatever mentally. So knowing that I've got someone else there keeping me accountable is really important, and for me, and it's really handy. And then Dave Nunn, obviously we just talked about, from High Risk Solutions. He's come on board in the last 12 months or so. He's great. He'll do anything to support anyone in this town, and even outside of Gladstone, the amount of work he does to support not just sports but community events and businesses. He'll do it without even thinking. So having his support come on board in the last 12 months has been awesome for me. It's allowed me to get to those World Championship races and qualify for them, and compete at as many events as I do. So without those guys, and then also the Rugged Society clothing company that just started up in Gladstone here. They're doing great, and they've also come on board to support me, which is great. I mean, all those little people that come on board and help is massive help for me, and allows me to keep going.
Now they've got fit for the World Champs. What's the next mission? What's the next challenge?
So had a couple of weeks off. Didn't do too much training. Just sort of let the body recover, but just relax. But I enjoy it. I love going out and training. I love having the roster of training to do each week. So I'm back into it now. I'm going to do the Agnes Triathlon this weekend actually, and go down there and have a bit of fun and race with all the locals, which is great. It's good to see so many people continuing to support that event. It's a great little local event that we have around here, and it's good to see so many first timers too getting out there and having fun, and getting in the mix with them. So I'll go down and do that, and then we've got the Noosa Triathlon in start of November, so about 5 weeks from now. That's an Olympic distance race, so I'll have a crack there, and then from there I've gone over to New Zealand in December for the Half Ironman World Championships, which I qualified in June in Cairns this year. I've got that one in December, which is probably the focus for the rest of the year, and then from there we'll see how next year plays out and what we're going to focus on and aim for.
I guess looking long-term vision, like you have your big Ironmans, like what's the one in Hawaii?
Yeah, that's the full Ironman World Championships. Yep.
Yep. So is that potentially like a 3 to 5 or 2 to 5 year goal for you?
Yeah, it probably is. Like, I don't know. It was a massive goal of mine probably a couple of years ago when I was training for the full Ironman distance. But, I don't know. Full Ironmans are hard in itself, but also the amount of extra commitment you've got to commit just to compete, just to complete one, I suppose. So, we'll see. We'll see if I focus on the full Ironman or stick to the half Ironmans in the next couple of years. But I would love to go over there and race that one, and I would love to do the Port Macquarie Ironman in Australia as well. It's the only one in Australia that I haven't done. So, that'll probably be a goal in maybe 4 or 5 years. But for now, I'll stick to probably the half Ironman sort of Olympic distance, and see where that goes.
Yeah. In terms of injuries, haven't come across any or?
No, I've been very fortunate in the last few years, or even since I've been doing the sport. I mean, I haven't had anything major come about, and that just comes down to my coach, Kefren. He balances my work and my life and training around everything really well. So, he's looking at the results of each training session and making sure I'm not too fatigued for the next training session. And he's got a very good knowledge in the sport and making sure that he knows what it's like to compete and work full time, and having that sort of knowledge in my corner is really important. It massive for injury prevention. I mean, if I was trying to do it myself and balance everything, I'm not sure how I'd go, but that plays a massive part in having someone overlook what you're doing, because sometimes I'll probably get carried away, and if I miss a training session, I might try and squeeze it in somewhere else in the week, but it's probably not the best idea because you might have a high intensity session that next day as well. So you don't want to do too many of them back to back, and just balancing it all, which is massive for injury prevention.
I guess, like you said, you do have Anton, but a lot of time you are training by yourself. So on the bike for 6 hours, and I know you said you got to get out there and it's good mental prep, but like, how do you literally get through that week by week?
Yeah, I don't know. It's something that it's grown on me over the years. Like when I first started doing these long 4 or 5 hour training rides week after week, they were pretty hard. I'd come in finishing the training session pretty fatigued and not have much energy for the rest of the day. But now I've done it for 5 years now, every week, just about. I've done a 4 hour training ride, probably done 200 to 250 4-hour rides in the last 5 years and plus. And I finished the training session now pretty tired, but I've got enough energy to continue on and keep going. And mentally, it was pretty tough in the early days, but I've built enough mental strength now to get through it. Not, you always have days where you don't feel like getting out the door and doing those training sessions, but I don't do it just for a chore. I enjoy the training too, as much as the racing. So it is hard some days getting out the door, but once you're out there, it's all right.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I appreciate your time.
Yeah, no worries.
It's been good, man.
Yeah, thanks.
And honestly, obviously did a bit of triathlon myself when I was younger.
Yeah.
I know what it's like. I only did sprint distances really.
Yeah.
So doing those hours, training and traveling all that much, it's a commitment, and you definitely, you got a gift.
Thanks, mate. It doesn't just come naturally to me anyway. Like, it's taken a lot of work and a lot of years of commitment, but it's something I enjoy, and everyone does what they enjoy and they get better at it. So as long as you keep doing what you enjoy and follow your passions, I mean, you can probably achieve whatever you want, really.
Yeah, 100%. And actually finish on that, what would you say to anyone who wants to get into triathlons or any endurance sport? What would be your hot tip to them? Yeah,
I mean, just get out and have a crack. Like me, I didn't have any idea what I was doing in the sport. I mean, I didn't even have a set of goggles. I didn't know how to swim. I had a cheap road bike that I was only using for a bit of cross training when I was running. And you don't have to have the good gear. You don't even have to. Especially in triathlon, everyone supports each other. Everyone's there. It doesn't matter if you're first or last. At the end of the day, the person that comes first is supporting the guy that gets last, and the guy that gets last is always there yelling and cheering at the person that's up the front too. So that's what's great about triathlon and endurance sports as a whole, really. So, I mean, you don't need good gear. If you've got a cheap bike, or, go down to the local bike shop here, M1 Cycles, and just grab a cheap bike and, get a set of goggles and just register for something small. I mean, get down and do a couple of training sessions. You don't need to do massive hours. I mean, you just have to get through it, and then from there you can build it. You can just build each one and get better and better and keep committing.
Would you recommend like maybe joining like a swim club? Like, is that something you wish you did early on? Or
Yeah, I did have a swim coach, Russell Ogden. From the local triathlon club here. He helped me out a lot when I first started. I mean, a lot with technique, especially. Like I was terrible, and I was last in the squad. There was like a fast lane, a medium lane, a slow lane, and then there was me over in the walking lane trying to swim. And yeah, he helped me, and we got through. I wasn't even doing any of the training session at the squad. We'd just do like, he'd just say, you just keep swimming and just practice. He'd just give me some tips on technique, and he just told me to just keep practicing. And it was a bit daunting at the time, but no, I knew how far I was, that I knew how much work I had to do, and it was a commitment I was prepared to put in, and it was good. Eventually I was quick enough to go in the slow lane, and then from there I was like, oh, this is pretty good. And then I picked up a bit more and was able to get in the intermediate lane and then in the advanced lane. But it just takes time. I mean, it's a lot of hours that you got to commit to. If you're not a natural, it's something that you pick up. It doesn't mean you can't ever be successful at it. You just got to spend more hours and commit to it.
I guess it's the thing, like you don't have to win every race. It's
that's right.
Component of it.
Yeah, that's right. And a lot of people don't want to win races. They're just there to finish races, and that's great. I mean, that's probably 3/4 of a triathlon field. It's just there to get through a race or train and compete in their own personal goals. And that's what the sport's about. Just supporting everyone. It's great.
100%. Right. Thanks again.
No worries, mate. Thank you.
All right. Cheers.